Hey, welcome to Begin With Yes. I'm Paul Boynton, and I am so excited to be with you today, and excited about my guest, Maya Hall, who we've chatted a little bit before the show, but we're going to get a little bit deeper into some of the things going on in her life. And I can tell you already that what she's dealing with, many of you out there are dealing with too, and that is having big dreams, impossible dreams, feeling a little bit of fear around those dreams, and wanting to charge forward anyways through the fear. So welcome, Maya.
Thanks for having me on your show, and I'm excited to get into some of these issues and hopefully gain some insight and help other people that are out there too with facing the same problems.
That's awesome. It's so exciting for me. I love, because if you've been on my Begin With Yes page for a while, you know that there are so many people from literally all over the world, and I get to see them every day, and they're pushing the like button and leaving comments, and then to actually get to talk to them is very exciting to me. So we'll get right on to it, and begin by you sort of giving us a little bit of background about what's going on, let's say the last year or two with you.
Well, I started out living in Flagstaff, Arizona for most of my life, and just recently, in the last 2 years, I jumped out all the way into Chicago. And part of this journey was partially because of my partner, who had gone into Northwestern University and asked me, hey, I think this is time for us to start living together. Are you willing? I know that you're graduating in a month. And so I graduated from Northern Arizona University, got $1,000 in my pocket and a one-way plane ticket with no housing, no job, no anything. I had no idea what I was doing, but I popped out anyways. I said, if I don't do this now, I'm always going to regret it. So I came out, and I've been living here, and I just recently decided I was going to make a huge job change, and that's where the fun is beginning right now.
Okay. It's like, is that typical behavior for you to just make those big kinds of moves and changes? And are you bold like that typically?
I really feel like I'm not. A lot of times I was a very cautious person. I'm usually someone who's very level-headed and will think through things and maybe this is not the best choice. But these last two really large life decisions have been completely out of left field, at least, but I don't regret doing them at all.
That's, it's one of the things that that I'm always sort of impressed about when I do it, and I'm always impressed when other people tell me their stories, is that when they take some of those bold moves, there's no way necessarily to eliminate all the risks, eliminate all the fears around doing those big life changes, and yet sometimes we just feel like, I'm just going to do it anyways. I'm going to leap into the air and trust that it'll all work out. And I actually can't think of a story where someone has done that and it hasn't worked out. It doesn't mean that everything falls into place beautifully, because that's rarely the case with anything. But I guess in almost every story I've heard about people doing that, things have worked out okay. Not always in the way that they thought they were going to, but putting yourself into a new place, into a new space, which is something I think a lot of people think about, but for whatever reason decide not to do it. I've actually never seen that backfire. And if you're listening to this and you've had one of those experiences where it's backfired, send me a note, because I'd love to understand that better and learn from you. So where are you right now? You finished school, you started a job when you got to Illinois, and then you liked the job but didn't love it, or what's going on with that?
So I ended up jumping into childcare. I always loved small children, and I ended up being a toddler teacher at a daycare, and then eventually moving on to being a kindergarten teacher, a pre-kindergarten teacher for 5-year-olds. And while that was extremely fun, and you get to be with a bunch of different personalities and see kids who are growing so quickly, and the psychology of that and all of those interesting aspects of childcare, I realized at the end of the day that wasn't something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And it became kind of this big question of, okay, I'm here now. I've had a background entirely in education, but this is not really, at the end of the day, what I want to do. So what do I want to do? And after doing some research and some soul searching, I decided I'm going to try and get into writing. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no background, no real experience. And so I jumped out with kind of this faith of, you're going to find something, everything will work out. You just need to put your head down, do the work, find a part-time job or something that will allow you to gain the experience and learn on your own. But that has been something that has been very frightening for me. And after 5 months of searching, where I do have writing part-time jobs, but not enough to be able to financially support me in a way that I was hoping for, it is a little scary, because now the risks are kind of adding up. And I'm at this point, I think, where I'm questioning, is the jump that I did the right one? Is it, you start to have doubts after a while. And I think that's kind of where the fear sets in too. And that's where I'm at with my worries.
When I listen to you talk about taking these big leaps of faith, and especially changing a career and moving in a whole different direction, I think that we have to go into those big life changes with some respect and some recognition that not everything is going to fall into place immediately, and that sometimes we have to be creative about how we fill in the pieces that need to be filled in so you can keep moving forward. I've talked to some people, Maya, who have taken that big leap, and then things haven't fallen into place perfectly the way they wanted to. So then they start overreacting to the fear that they're feeling and begin second guessing themselves. And it's all those things, being scared, second guessing yourself, having doubts, excuse me, they're all part of the human experience. And so I think it's really important to sort of be open to and understand, all those things are happening because I'm moving into sort of uncharted water. But the only way you get to new places, right, is to go through that uncharted water. And so all those things that you're feeling that you could sort of put into the category of negative, if you wanted to, are actually affirmations that your life is underway in a new way. And so you need to pay attention to them, I think, because they give you clues about what you need to do, but also sort of begin to say, these are not bad signs, these are good signs. So I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling some self-doubt, I'm wondering if I made the right decision. Are all things that sort of affirm, at least from my perspective, that you're taking risks, you're doing something brave, and your life isn't in any danger, it doesn't sound like. And so I think that you can get through this, and it may take a little bit longer than you thought. With me, everything I wanted to do always took longer than I thought it was going to. I'm one of these very optimistic people, so I think, okay, if I want to go from here to here, it's going to be a straight line and everything's going to go my way. And two things happen. It almost, once in a while, it does go from A to B perfectly and smoothly and quickly, but more often than not, there's lots of detours and lots of opportunities for me to get new pieces of information. I'm learning new things. I kind of revise my course, and you can't even get to the place where you can revise the course until you get to that place where you're stuck, right? And so it gives you a chance to sort of reassess and redirect if that's important. But almost always, if I look back on those periods in my life, I'm always really glad that I took the risk, and I always end up someplace, not always exactly how I thought it would be or hoped it would be, but always someplace that feels right and good for me. So I think if you can maybe take a deep breath and relax a little bit around some of these things that are making you nervous and say that's all part of, you can't be being adventurous and not have these feelings, right?
Yeah.
I don't know anyone that's like done a bungee jump that hasn't wondered if they're crazy and made the wrong decision until they're down at the end of the process and bouncing happily on it. And so you're sort of at that place. And so all the feelings that are making you anxious are, to me, signs that you're doing something exciting. So let's get back to where you are right this minute and do a little bit of sort of creative thinking about some things you can do to both calm yourself down and also stay focused so you're getting something done. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I need that.
Okay. So where are you exactly? You've got some part-time writing work, right?
I have some part-time writing work at a different company, and I also am illustrating books on the side for a family-run business, for a book called Justine the Unicorn Pegasus.
Okay.
So those are kind of the two main jobs that I'm working at right now. So I'm enjoying both of them, but financially they're not able to support me full-time for all the things that I need.
Okay.
And so that has been building stress, I think, with the job not going, because for me, like you were saying before, I'm very adventurous, and I'm also the type of person who's very optimistic. So when I left my job, I'm like, in 3 weeks, I'm going to have this great writing job. I'm going to, and like that just doesn't happen. So having these detours, even though they're great and there's something that has been building me up, it still is causing stress, because it still feels like after 5 months, well, I'm still here. How much longer am I going to be able to last before I have to go back? Into an old position if need be, all of those. And that's what's really driving that type of nervous feeling.
Okay. Well, the first thing that jumps into my mind is you've been at this for 5 months and you've already had some successes. So
that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
I mean, really, it's like, it's part of what we have to learn to do is speak to ourselves differently, tell ourselves different things than what we're telling ourselves. And so one thing you could tell yourself is, I don't have as much work as I thought I would have or I wanted to have. Another thing you could tell yourself is, I've only been at this for 5 months and I already have 2 part-time gigs, right?
That's a good way to look at it. Yes.
Now that doesn't help you pay your bills, but it does help create some perspective, right?
Yeah.
And so I've always loved the thought about, having one foot in the air and then the other foot on the ground. So I recognize we have to be grounded in reality. We have bills to pay. We have to pay rent or pay the mortgage, and we have to feed ourselves. And many times people have many more obligations than I bet you do. And they're trying to squeeze in an impossible dream on top of all those things. And so I really respect the realities that we all face in our life, and we have to. I think you and all of us have to be respectful of those realities and not pretend that they're not there. So then I would ask you to begin looking at be realistic with yourself about what kind of an income you need to begin to feel better about pursuing the artistic directions that you want to go into, and be realistic about that. I mean, you now know that this is going to be a more gradual transition. It's not going to be, a straight line. And so could you begin to think about, how could I do both things? How could I pursue my dream and also be grounded in reality and take care of some of my financial responsibilities, so I can sort of take the pressure off me? And what you're really doing is protecting your dream by doing that. So if you thought about some of those things.
I haven't considered really looking into those. I think you get into such a, you put your blinders on and you're like, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
You trudge forward, that even when things are not going in a direction that you thought that they were, you're not looking for other avenues.
Right.
And you're not looking for other solutions. It's more of just this kind of bullheaded, this is what I was going to do, this is how it's going to happen.
Right.
Life can deal with it, but this is happening. So for someone to come in and tell me, maybe there's other avenues that you need to be looking into, that is really helpful. Because for me, sometimes I completely forget that there's other avenues that you can go down to in order to complete your dream. It just takes longer, and that's okay.
Right. And do you have people in your life that you can brainstorm with and help you think out loud?
I do.
Okay,
yeah.
Because that's a real advantage that you have. And what I would do is, see, many times people create these sort of false choices. So I either have to go back and do childcare and do what I had thought I was going to leave behind, or do something that I don't really want to do. And what I would encourage you to do is brainstorm with people in your life and say, I want to be a writer and an illustrator. So if I need to sort of supplement my income right now, what kinds of earning opportunities would there be in areas or fields that wouldn't be so far removed from writing and illustrating? So, for example, and this may not even be a good example, but I just want to be clear about what I'm thinking. If you said to yourself, like, I would like to be writing for a particular magazine in Illinois, or I want to do more children's illustrations, or could you look for some part-time income within that field so you're not moving too far away from the field? In fact, you're creating opportunities to be more enmeshed in that field, which can open up some more writing opportunities, but it just takes the pressure off a little bit. Can you think out loud with me for a minute about what some of those opportunities might be? Can you even think of one?
I think probably even doing something where you get into freelance. There are a lot of freelance writing opportunities that you can do, especially for, in this case, if we're talking about magazines, for news writing stations, there's always a demand for freelance. So maybe that's something that I could start looking into and seeing, maybe adding 2 or 3 more jobs, though they may each be small, may really help supplement that income.
Right. And not only will it supplement the income, but you'll be seeing growth in your field. So this, what I would do, and before I forget it, I just want to say too, that when we make these changes in our life and when we make these big choices, that's for right now is what we're deciding to do. And we're going to give this a shot. It doesn't lock us into, we're not making lifetime decisions necessarily unless that's how it goes. And that's what we still want to do. Like, I know a lot of people who go to college to become teachers, and one of the things wrong with the educational system in my mind is that students don't get to teach until they finish their program, and then they get into their program and they realize they don't really like to teach. And so that happens a lot. And so it's like you have so much more power to be in control of your life. And every decision that you make, you get to redirect, redecide, refocus, modify. And so your idea of finding some additional freelance work is a great idea. And where would some of the freelance work come from?
A lot of it can be done remotely, which is the great the great side of things. But even going into the offices, even in Evanston, and working there would be possible.
And actually, sort of getting out of the house, and in an isolated way, finding some opportunities to supplement your income in an arena that you want to be in, anyways, right?
Yeah, that's very cool.
I mean, if I were you, I'd be looking for like a part-time job in a publication that you're interested in, being an administrative assistant for 3 days a week, or answering the phone, or because it's putting you into that world. And I don't throw that out to you as an absolute suggestion. I just throw that out to you as an encouragement for you to begin thinking like that. So how can I earn more money, put myself in a place where I'm meeting more people who might be able to help me, and staying involved and engaged in the business that I want to be in? Does that make sense?
That makes total sense, yeah.
Right. So then all of a sudden, so now for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be focused on doing that. The other thing I want to remind you about is that those big leaps are incredibly exciting and wonderful, and congratulations for you for doing that. Because there's a lot of people listening to this right now that are saying, I wish that I had the courage to do what Maya did. And I hope they'll get on this show too, because we can talk about how they can go from I wish I was like Maya to I am like Maya. But now begin to think of some small steps that you can take that are more manageable. You've actually got yourself in a very good position. You're actually having some successes. You've got some realistic stresses in your life that you've got to deal with. You're a grown-up and you've got to pay your bills. And so the question is not, do I have to desert my dream, but how can I find a way to earn some additional money, stay in my field, and actually meet some people that might be helpful to me to get more writing jobs?
Yeah.
and then begin to think about small steps you can take to do that. At least that's what pops into my mind, is what I would love to see you do over the next few weeks. And you've been making these big life transitions. So now I'm saying, if you can do that, you can surely do some of these smaller things that keep you grounded but moving in the right direction. So to me, that's what I would love to see you do.
That's something that I will definitely look into, and something that I will sit down and start to do. I think with having such large leaps, it can be difficult to look at small steps too, because you're going from such a large picture to such tiny details. But it needs to happen, and it's something that I think that I've been putting off. I knew that I needed to start really getting into the nitty and gritty of things, but there is a fear there of, oh, well, you know, is this going to work out? And when you start nitpicking, there's some fears that flare up. But I think ultimately it will be a much more calming experience because I'm just not facing it. So when I do face it, it will, oh, okay, I can do X, Y, and Z. I have a plan now. You can relax all of, you know, your fears and let them go and just move forward. Yeah.
And if you've got a group of people around, 1 or 2 or 3 people that you think would help you think through this, get them over for pizza and sit around and have this conversation about, Paul suggested that I do this. Does anyone have any ideas about how I could increase my income and stay in my field and keep writing?
Yeah.
And then I think that you're going to find that you will be lowering your anxiety a little bit without diverting your attention to your dream. It's like you can do both things at once.
I mean, I think ultimately that it was, at least for me, when I jumped out, there was this huge fear. Before I jumped out, there was this huge fear. You talked to a lot of people who might be listening in who, you know, want to make that step. And I don't want to frighten them by them hearing, oh, you know, she's really stressed out even though she's made that jump. I do, even though I have my doubts most days, there are still lots of moments where I look back and say, you know, I did that. I actually jumped out and I decided to follow myself, even if it's not coming, you know, to the point where I thought it would. It's better than where I was because I'm able to not just dream about it, but I'm able to actually doing this. It might not be going exactly the way, you know, I want, but when is that or the real case in life with anything? So I don't want to frighten people by that experience. If they have something inside of themselves that's saying do it. It will work out. It's just getting over those hurdles and eventually reaching the other side.
You know, that feels to me like a great piece of freelance writing that you could do right now as a result of this conversation and then float that out there and see if you could get somebody to pick it up because it's excellent advice. And I think you're absolutely right. You could have your own TV show telling people, don't be afraid of taking those big leaps. And you know what, Maya, if taking those big leaps meant that you went from here to here overnight without lots of challenges and roadblocks, then it wouldn't be a big leap.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It wouldn't. What kind of a risk would it be taking if everything went smoothly? So the fact that it's got its ups and downs and jigs and jags and good days and bad days is a good sign and a realistic sign. So people who are poised to do that ought to expect that to be part of the experience. But you are having the experience while most people are sitting on the sidelines wishing they were. So I'm excited for you, and I think if you do what I suggested that you do, you'll be able to come up with some really good ideas, and I don't think it's going to take more than a couple of weeks for you to figure out some important next steps, and I hope that you will do me a favor and send me a note on Facebook, tell me what you came up with, and then maybe in a few months we can chat again and update people on how you're doing.
Yeah, I would love that. I definitely will get in contact with you and keep you up to date with what's been going on.
All right. And if you get stuck, call me because I actually don't see this as a huge burden for you or a huge hurdle. So you've just got to focus on making things happen to reduce your anxiety in the field that you want to be working in.
Yes.
So that's your goal.
All right.
Awesome. Hey,
Yeah.
thanks for being with us, Maya. You don't know how excited I am to have met you and to have had this conversation. And I know a year from now you're going to be so much further along than you can even imagine. So make that happen, and then come back and tell people about that experience as well.
I absolutely will. Thank you so much for giving me the advice, and I will definitely keep you updated.
Awesome, and thank you for the good advice you've been giving people too. Keep doing it.
Will do.
All right, thanks, Maya. Have a great day.
You too.
All
Bye.
right. Thank you. Maya, what an exciting story, right? She's sitting there thinking, oh my God, I'm nervous and anxious. And she's actually doing what the rest of us wish we were doing too. So let Maya be your example for today. And if you're dreaming about doing something different and big and exciting, I hope that you're even more excited about doing that now. So, hey, if you want to be on the Begin With Yes YouTube show, all you have to do is send me a note at paul@beginwithyes.com, and we can get you lined up to have this kind of a conversation. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time.